Hey, it's Sela Social Studies.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sela Social Studies. Alright, so today we're going to cover the Wright Brothers. And who were the Wright Brothers and why are they famous and why is their invention probably one of the most used inventions today by the most people around the world? So there was a set of brothers and they were from Ohio and they envisioned a faster and more efficient way of travel. Wilbur Wright was born in Millville, Indiana on April 16, 1867, and 4 years later, while they were living in Dayton, Ohio, his little brother Orville was born. And the Wright brothers had many other siblings and their family moved between Indiana and Ohio with their family multiple times. So growing up, the brothers loved to invent things. They always seemed to have an affinity for things that were in the air. Orville loved to build kites, and then one day his father gave him a toy helicopter that flew, and it was aided by rubber bands. You would spin this rubber band, and it would spin the blade when you let it go, and it would fly through the air. And this little toy is what is said to have sparked the Wright brothers' passion for flight. And Orville and Wilbur began to invent their own toy helicopters. Growing up in Ohio, the Wright brothers went into business together as well. Their first successful venture was in the printing press business. They printed newspapers and daily columns and books and church publications during their time as printers. And a few years later, the brothers would open up a bicycle shop, and then their life ambitions of hard work culminated in what the Wright brothers are most famous for. So they did a lot of inventing, and actually they were just two businessmen that always had a dream. And Orville and Wilbur Wright wanted to learn how to fly. They would try to figure out a way that humans could catch flight and soar among the clouds. They studied how birds flew, and they would use the bird's wing structure to help them design wings for their newest creation. And the Wright brothers would try to fly gliders, and when they added a motor and propellers, they invented the first airplane. So the Wright brothers are the brothers that invented our airplane. And inventing an airplane was not an easy task at all. So they experimented with gliders for years, and while perfecting controls and wing designs, they would work on it day and night. And they try to have to figure out how to use their hands to guide, their feet to guide. The glider they were laying down on, so they weren't even sitting up. So they had to perfect these controls and these designs in order to get them to fly. And after work on their gliders were nearing an end, the Wright brothers needed to figure out a way to propel their gliders with an efficient motor because human power couldn't do it. They had to learn how to make a better propeller and an engine light enough that would not hinder the takeoff and really bog the airplane down. So this amount of innovation and technology used by the Wright brothers was unimaginable. And with the creation of the original Wright Flyer, the Wright brothers were the first two people to make a successful flight with a human on a machine that was powered by an engine that was heavier in air. But who was going to fly first? So the Wright brothers had to decide who was going to fly first. After all, whoever flew first will most certainly be part of the history books. And the brothers decided that Orville would make the first flight. Their father didn't want the brothers to make the flight together because he knew that if something were to happen and there was a crash, he was scared, the safety concerns. Hey, if it were to crash, at least he wouldn't lose both of his sons in one crash. So the Wright brothers took their invention to North Carolina out of Ohio and attempted to gain any favorable advantages that would lead to their success. So on December 17, 1903, the brothers decided on Kitty Hawk, North Carolina as their destination for flight. Why Kitty Hawk? Well, Kitty Hawk offered a favorable geography and wind pattern to assist in the flight. It had a nice hill that they would be able to roll down and take off from. It had upward ocean breezes that would help propel the flight, and there was a sandy beach that would help soften the blow of a landing just in case there was a crash. Orville's first flight lasted about 12 seconds and measured about 120 feet. And as historic as it was not the lone flight of the day. Each brothers took turns flying back and forth, and each time they flew, both times the distances and the times increased. And as the brothers left, they continued to perfect their new airplane. In November of 1904, Wilbur flew their newest plane, the Flyer 2, for over 5 minutes. Because the Wright brothers lived and did the majority of the work in the Buckeye State, Ohio takes credit for the success of the Wright brothers. However, since the brothers chose to fly their plane at Kitty Hawk in North Carolina, the Tar Heel State lays claim to the first in flight. But if you want to see the original Wright Flyer, you could visit the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., and you can see it with your own eyes. So the Wright brothers' invention of the airplane had a mega impact on the future of transportation. Even though it took time to perfect this craft, it was a matter of a few years when Americans were able to travel long distances by airplane. Today, as you know, people all over the world rely on the airplane to take them from places to place that would have taken months by a boat or train, that now, because of the Wright brothers, could only take less than an hour. An hour, you could cross the globe in a few hours, probably less than a day. All right, so that's the Wright brothers and the invention of the airplane.